Okay, well, I am back. I have sound. Yay. Finally, let me get Milton back, and I'll have to go do my whole monologue over again later on for you guys. I got emotional, and then I just got frustrated because the microphone wasn't working. Anyway, please share the link for the new. This is this is just like back in the day. For those of us who are old enough to remember being in the garage, trying to record, like if you thought you were an aspiring singer or rapper or something, trying to do a little something. And that's the equivalent of the way of Anoa right now. Just, a upstart in your parents' basement, even though I don't live with my parents. But I am trying to get Milton Davis back in here connected. Like I said, if you were able to understand me. My interview tonight is with Milton Davis of Working Washington. We're going to talk about secure scheduling and the very awesome bill that just passed in Seattle yesterday. 9-0 passed Seattle City Council. It's a great win for workers. I believe they're the second city after San Francisco. And I think like New York and some other places are considering similar legislation going forward. So I am trying to connect Milton. Again, I want to apologize. I want to apologize to you guys for technical difficulty because I was so caught up with the news alerts and stuff popping up that I did not actually check my sound before I started. I'm flying solo this week without my producer. He is out of town with family, sending them the best. And I was just so psyched to be able to talk to you guys and get in there that, I didn't even know. And I checked our live production thread and I was like, oh, you guys can't hear me. Anyway, I'm bringing Milton back in now. So just hang tight, tweet the link out, please, because we're here for the next 37 minutes until the Benjamin Dixon Show. It's always good and fun times, but at least in the next 35 minutes, I'm going to give you the best quality content I possibly can. And I definitely appreciate you. But this is another good reason, if you have not already done so, to become a patron of The Way, because I am in desperate need, obviously, of making sure that all the equipment has a major overhaul, so that I can continue to provide you with greater quality, $1, $5, whatever you can spare. If they'd let you do quarters, I'm sure that would be great too. But just patreon.com/The Way with Anoa. If you have not already done so, please go check out my YouTube page. Ben graciously provides this space, before his show at 9 to allow me to build out the audience and to bring you content with a slightly different feel from what he does. But definitely go check out The Way with Anoa on YouTube as well. So I am bringing Milton back in so we can dive into this conversation, and then I'll get to a little bit of the news I was trying to. And if I have time, I'll get to some of my comments about Charlotte and the other 3, 4, 5 police deaths that have happened in the past week, because it just seems like we get through one, and then there's another one. We get through that one, then there's another one. Before you can even breathe and catch your breath, there's another one. And the level of ignorance, we can blame Donald Trump for a lot of stuff, and people are definitely more brazen these days and saying anything and everything. But people have always been that way. And I think people are I think the normalization of Donald Trump, we've seen over the last year, makes a lot of people feel like they can say whatever the hell they want to say, whenever they want to say, without any consequences. And I'm just letting y'all know, you better watch what you're saying, because the clapback is very, very strong and tolerance levels are extremely low. So I'm waiting for Milton to come back in. One of the things that I just wanted to highlight earlier today was I saw there was a piece in the USA Today about, the CEO of Mylan, Heather Bresch, who also happens to be the daughter of West Virginia Senator and former Governor Joe Manchin, Democrat. The piece was talking about how basically her mother used her position on this National Education Committee to push the EpiPen that she, drove up the price on as CEO of Mylan Pharmaceuticals. And so the headline, it's like, okay, mother of Mylan CEO. It's like, yeah, but she's also the wife of a sitting U.S. senator, right? Using her position and power of influence. And why do we care about? We should care about this. And it's not just, oh, the Dems are crooked. They are. They're crooked, either equal to the Republicans or, it's similarly disconcerting. But we should really be concerned about the way in which policies are driven. Oh, you're here. Yay.
Okay, I can hear you now. Okay, great.
Yay. So it wasn't just apparently I look over in our live production thread and they're like, we can't hear you.
Right.
You've been talking for like 10 minutes and nobody hears you. I'm like, oh my God.
I'm glad it wasn't. Yeah, I thought I was messing it up. Okay.
So thank you so much for joining me today. Really exciting stuff. Really appreciate you for taking some time out. If you can just introduce yourself and just kind of a little bit about Working Washington, and then let's talk secure scheduling. This is exciting.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Milton. I send a lot of annoying emails for Working Washington, do communication. And so what we do is essentially we're a workers' rights advocacy group for the state of Washington. So anything that affects employees, whether they're large companies, small companies, pretty much any type of business, we generally try to do things that increase their quality of life through their work environment. So if you a quick history would be $15 minimum wage in Seattle, things like that. We've been a part of the past 4 or 5 years now.
Oh, sweet. So with this, I was watching because shout out to Andre Roberge from our production staff for connecting us and making this interview possible. So, he's been really we've been talking internally a lot about this, this issue of secure scheduling. We've been talking about paid family leave. We've been talking about a lot of labor issues internally and stuff. So it's been exciting to watch, I guess, the push, especially leading up into the city council vote yesterday, to see that collective action happening.
It's obviously very exciting for us too. And I think that what has made it even more exciting is, like you were saying, it's kind of been this gradual push. It's secure scheduling, but it started with, 15 an hour, and it started with a lot of things even before that. And so I think what's really exciting for us is to see not only this kind of work and push pay off over the long term, but also see, when we look toward the future, Seattle being leading and Washington being leading and on the cutting edge of these things that are happening.
Well, it definitely seems like Seattle, usually when you hear about these great trends, especially these great progressive victories, Seattle definitely is at the forefront of that. Right. And it's definitely, these community-oriented organizations, or labor-led movements that seem to be really driving the force of change in many places. So let's just, we talked about, the gradual, with the minimum wage has been it's been 2 years now?
Yes, it went, right. The 15 went 2 years ago.
Yeah, so we had the 15 2 years ago, and now just yesterday we had the Seattle City Council voting for 9-0 secure scheduling. Right. So can we let's talk a little bit so what exactly are we talking about when we're talking about secure scheduling? What are we looking at here in terms of the vote yesterday?
Okay, and so it's pretty groundbreaking. And to give you kind of a backstory on what it is, essentially. Workers, baristas at Starbucks actually started to take notice, and a lot of other places, but these baristas took the first action. They started to notice that their schedules weren't balanced and flexible, and therefore neither were their lives. It's hard to plan things on short notice. It's hard to have your shifts change and have it be out of your control. And so all these things led for these baristas to go to the Starbucks corporate headquarters and deliver a letter to Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks. This was about a year ago to the day almost, letting him know that they wanted some more balance to their schedules that they had. And he actually talked well about it, and like large corporations tend to do, talked about how that change was coming, and it was always on the forefront, and just be patient, and eventually that patience ran out, and that's when it was decided to take this to a policy level. And so when we talk about secure scheduling, what we're talking about is 4 main components. So the first component is getting 2 weeks notice. So you would get 2 weeks notice of any changes to your schedule, or 2 weeks notice of your actual schedule itself. So instead of some places, like I know there's some Safeway workers who are saying that they get their schedule 3 days in advance for the next week, or 2 days in advance. So you can imagine if you have childcare needs, want to go to school, want to have another part-time job, that's problematic. The second part of it is called predictability pay. And so predictability pay allows for a worker to be compensated when the employer make sudden changes to their schedule. So, for example, if I'm scheduled to work at McDonald's tomorrow at 2 p.m., and my employer all of a sudden calls me and says, "Just kidding, you're not," then they're going to have to compensate me for that. If they add a schedule unexpectedly, then I get paid 1 hour of what the shift time would have been in addition to the work that I do. So if I work 8 hours, all of a sudden I'm gonna get paid for 9. The second is that they subtract if all of a sudden my shift disappears, I still need to be paid for half of that shift.
Oh, okay.
So if I'm supposed to work tomorrow and I'm counting on that $80 I'm going to get from that shift, and all of a sudden you call me and say, "Don't come in, you're not getting that $80, I'll still get $40 from that shift. The third of the 4 components is right to rest. So right to rest means, have you ever heard the term clopening?
No.
Okay, so clopening, it's actually a combination of the words closing and opening. So clopening means that you're, let's say you're a barista and you're working at Starbucks, so you have to close in, you're there till 2 in the morning, and then all of a sudden you have to turn around. Open. Exactly. So you're supposed to be here.
I had that happen to me in my old Navy days. Yes.
Oh, did you? Yes,
I had heard that term, but yes.
Yeah, and retail's a part of it. So what that says is, look, if you're going to have to be closing, I'm not going to have to turn around and wake up 4, 5, 6 hours later. What we do is say you have to give 10 hours in between. And if you go under 10 hours, then you also have to pay additional income for the amount of hours that they're going to be going in there. So they get overcompensated for that too. Now, it's important to remember, though, that if you want to clopen, if you need the hours, you don't mind the schedule, you can request that. You just can't be forced to or have that be posted and then have to change it. And then the last part is access to hours, which just says, hey, a lot of people who are working want full-time hours. Everyone wants 40 hours a week. What happens a lot of times is instead of giving those full-time hours, they'll hire a part-time employee, another part-time employee, and then you can be denied certain benefits, and it's cheaper overall. And so you're sitting there saying, I would like those hours, but they bring in someone else to take those small amount of hours. So now employees who are already there, full-time employees, get access to those hours first before they can hire part-time workers.
Oh,
okay. So those 4 things kind of combined to paint the picture. And the way we like to say it to people is $15 an hour was one part of the struggle here in Seattle for rights. But having those having that hourly salary doesn't do you much good if you also don't have the hours to make that worth it. So this kind of completed the picture of creating a more balanced, flexible life for workers.
Right. That's and when you think about it, like the way you explained it, when you think about it, it sounds counterintuitive. It sounds like good business practice. You should want your employees to be, well rested and content with their work, and it just seems like just good business, good sound business. And yet, how has especially with this portion? I mean, I already know the fear mongering that has been happening all over the country with the spread of the Fight 15. But how has, with the secure scheduling, how has that been met by, particularly this would be, I guess, more so of retail and food service industries primarily, it seems like?
Surprisingly, they're not too happy. A lot of people aren't that happy. Whether I think that we're kind of dealing with the same opposition that we always have when it comes to workers' rights struggles. So we're dealing with big business lobbyists. We're dealing with retail associations who, they literally have Walmart and Target sit on their board of directors. So we're dealing with corporations that don't want to see the bottom line get lost. And that's been most of our opposition. And a lot of the arguments that came up really weren't true and were addressed. One of the biggest ones that we would hear was about how workers couldn't schedule flexibly themselves if they wanted to, but that's not true because we have certain things placed in that piece of legislation that also allow, for example, if you and I still want to swap shifts, we can swap shifts.
We can still swap shifts.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of the fear mongering had to do with miseducation around that. And so,
which tends to be a lot of things, right?
Exactly. But, we had a really, really strong presence at all the city council hearings. They also, they certainly didn't just watch it happen. They also sort of fought and big business
Right.
corporations tend to. But I think at the end of the day, the message was heard that, our time counts and it needs to be respected.
I mean, definitely. And like you were saying, the presence at the city council meetings, I just saw, when I saw the clips yesterday, when people were doing the testimony and people were speaking and stuff, it was just, or I didn't see clips, I saw pictures, but it was amazing to see so many people engaged in actually turning out for, important things, important legislation gets pushed, and put forth all the time at all levels of government all over the country. And so often, we, the people who benefit most from it, we're not in the room when the decisions are being made. Right. We're not in the room when the testimony is being given. So far too often, the assumption is made, wrongfully or rightfully, however people look at it, that people don't care or it doesn't really matter. But what I saw from all the different organizing that took place out there is that people were present and made sure that they were heard.
It was really inspiring. And I think there's a lot of energy because this affects so many people in Seattle.
Right.
And that's why there's so much coverage around it. That's why other cities are now actually looking into it already based on the model that we have. Everyone's brothers, sisters, fathers, cousins are, working for one of these industries. And I think that knowing that they can count on when they'll be able to come home, I think knowing they can count on whether or not they'll be able to go to class and, get that degree part-time, or they'll be able to pay rent because they know their hours are going to be for that week, that month, that year. I think that means a lot to a lot of people, and not just the people who are working in there, but people who support them. And it was a workers' victory all the way, where they did all the legwork. But we also had a lot of people who weren't even in those industries because everyone's at that job. And so everyone knows what it was like. And I think that it was so universal. And I think that that's what created a lot of the energy around it, was that it's going to be a lot of things get passed. And if you're not paying attention, you don't know how it's affecting your life. But I think a lot of people in Seattle, and hopefully soon the rest of Washington and the nation, are clearly going to see how their lives are affected.
Yeah, definitely. I was just thinking about still my old Navy days in college. Again, I was a college kid working. It was my part-time job, but when I would get put on the schedule when I was supposed to be in class, and I'm like, you guys have our class schedules for a reason, and you're still scheduling me. I can only imagine if I actually needed that job to provide for a family. I had to provide for myself, but just as a college student, it's a totally different ballgame. But when we're actually talking about people, like you said, like people with kids, even if you have elderly family members that you're helping to take care of, like whatever the scenario is, like having that stability, having that security in your scheduling. It's such a value.
Yeah,
and it's something that, it's something that those of us who are in full-time employment in other industries definitely take for granted, day to day. I don't think we realize, there's a lot of snarky comments people have had, like throughout 5 for 15, for example. And I don't think people realize how much you have when you're in certain other industries that we take for granted that should be available to everyone who's working.
Right. It is. And it's easy to take for granted, especially when you work that 9 to 5. But I think that, like you said, just the amount of people and the amount of energy. City Hall was packed. Each of these hearings, City Hall was packed. And it affects a lot of people, and that's good to see. And I think that it'll open up a lot of people's eyes, maybe people who aren't that in tune with our movement and what we're doing, when they see so many people clearly care about something. I think that'll help open up a lot of eyes to just how important these issues are that we take for granted.
So it sounds like it's really great, and there's some really awesome, pieces and put in place. And like you were saying, Fight for 15 was like almost step one. This is the next another piece to the puzzle. But what, if anything, do you think, where could it have gone farther, or what do you think maybe the next step is, or what's the next fight, coming over the horizon?
That's a good question. Definitely being the morning after the election, it was one that we're talking about today.
I'm sorry. I can't let you enjoy the win.
Right. No,
what's next?
That's the way it has to be. And I think that, so kind of going back to one of the things I was saying earlier, is that it also is, though, a part of a long-term movement and plan. Right. And so what I mean by that is that it's the same thing that we said with 15, when we said this isn't the end, this is the beginning, and this is a part of something bigger. And then, secure scheduling, that win is just another part of that. Right now we actually have, and we're going to be we already played working Washington already played a large part in getting it on the ballot. But next we have the 1350 statewide ballot initiative that's coming this election cycle to raise the minimum wage $4 an hour for the whole state. So that's going to be a big one and important to a lot of people, obviously. And then, I mean, for us, I think it's when we look at what's next, it's kind of as Seattle goes, the rest of the nation goes. We're seeing $15 legislation now from what we did here in Seattle globally. I mean, we have Alberta, Canada, down in California, East Coast, and then we actually saw some articles this week. New York City mayor and some of the New York City council members laid out a plan and a full endorsement for them to get secure scheduling in New York. So I think that we're tied to a bigger movement, and I think that for us, it looks like getting secure scheduling around the world, if that's not too big of a term to think on, and getting 1350 here in Washington so that, people can actually get a livable wage with the way the state is booming. Wow.
Well, I mean, yeah, I didn't mean to be like, so what are you now? What are you going to do? But no, seriously, but I think, no, but I think, it's just like I said, it's exciting. I'm here in Atlanta, I'm in the South, so, we'll probably be, I know the movement and workers is definitely strong here, whether how receptive, we'll see what happens in the South. But at the same time, it's very inspiring, though, to see the work from, that you guys are doing, that others are doing in places like Seattle, like you said, California, New York, and elsewhere. Like, it is a global movement, and it's every day. What I have loved so much from I've kind of only been tuned in the past year so much to this topic more so, but seeing people from all walks of life, seeing people, that you would never expect to be those people who would be the leaders to stand up and lead. They're the ones who are leading, they're the ones who are driving this work, and it is exciting, it is engaging, and I'm optimistic and looking forward to see what else you guys and others come up with and do next.
Yeah, I think one of the terms that almost at this point gets oversaid is grassroots, but I think if anyone wants to see what Working Washington's up to, and you see that the stories that are being told are workers who are telling the stories. And I think, you see them talking to city council and you see them telling the story. And when you see people gathering petitions for the minimum wage initiative, like we were doing in June and July, you see it's people who are really affected out there who are doing it. And I think that's what makes it so hopeful for places, whether it's New York, whether it's California, whether it's Atlanta, is that it clearly affects so many people so deeply that we're able to really mobilize around this. And it really is, I mean, the work, the ideas, and getting it passed through, as you can see if you saw any of those council meetings, start to finish, are the people who are most affected by it. And I think that the genuineness of this movement is what's going to make it so long-lasting and get you that down in Atlanta, too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's some really good people working down here and going real strong. And I think that if we just continue to build momentum and folks stay engaged and involved and connected, right? Because I think having folks connected across, different cities and, like you said, even globally, I think that adds some extra oomph, so to speak, to the movement as well. Definitely. So yeah. Well, this is great. Thank you. I'm going to have you guys back.
For sure. We'd love to. We're always going to have something going on, so we'll be back.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think we continue to have these conversations to helps let people see what else is going on out there. But two, I think we do need to just keep driving the conversation and building and sharing ideas and information. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye. So, see, the sound was messed up, but that was pretty cool. Just like I said, just yesterday, Seattle City Council 9-0 passed secure scheduling. And, we talk so much about 515. We talk so much about labor rights and making sure that everyday average folks have the resources and the tools to make it happen for themselves and their families. It would be cool to see what's coming down the pipeline from different organizations in terms of paid family leave. There's the whole affordable childcare movement. So just going back a little bit to just a little bit of news. And like I said, again, thank you, Andre, for making that happen. here at Progressive Army, we have actually a whole contingent of folks who are actually from Washington, which is pretty wild. And you would think that they all knew each other, but not really. They've all just come together, and it's very, very cool though. But just a few things, a few other things that happened in the news today, because I have 10 minutes left. Sorry again for technical difficulties in the beginning. We're going to chop this up, edit it, and then I'll add another segment to the actual video, to our video list for the evening. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I know there are so many other things that you can be doing on a Tuesday night, but you are here with me, and I greatly appreciate you. Like I was saying earlier, there is quite a bit of news, quite a bit of things that happened in the news today. Like I was just mentioning before Milton came in, Mylan CEO's mother used her position with education group to boost EpiPen sales, according to the USA Today. And they're talking about how Gail Manchin, wife of Senator Joe Manchin, former governor of West Virginia, used her position on a national education organization, as president of a national education organization, to drive EpiPen sales. So we being involved in stuff with different things that are going on in politics, and paying attention to what our, his wife, there was the whole cheating scandal with his daughter. His wife is using her position. I mean, she's the first lady of West Virginia, and then she was, she's the senator's wife. But in her private capacity, in her personal capacity, she's also helping to drive sales for something that her daughter is driving the price up on. I mean, it's a tangled web that they weave, and we continue to allow and enable and elect these people. And what's even more disgusting by the power play that goes on with, certain groups of people, it's on both sides of the aisle. But particularly when we have, Joe Manchin is a so-called conservative Democrat from West Virginia. And right now we have him and others who are propping up a newfound Democrat, Jim Justice, who's an absolute disaster for the state of West Virginia. He's the only billionaire in the state. He's a coal baron with back taxes and environmental issues in his minds, labor violations, all types of stuff. But, people are falling in line with the whole, he's a good, I got to be a good Democrat and vote for him because he won the Democratic nominee. Except he was a Republican until a year ago. Now, I had someone ask me, well, how's that different from Bernie Sanders? I done told y'all, I done tell folks time and time again, Bernie Sanders may not have always been a quote unquote Democrat on paper, but his ideas and his policies and his standpoints have always been above and beyond most of the people who run on a Democratic ticket, hands down. When you have someone that just comes into your party that does not share the ideas, does not share the values, does not have the best interests of what you're supposedly supposed to stand for, but you need to pay attention to who's actually getting behind that person and doing the work. And what's happening right now in West Virginia, and it's not even just that, the third party. So in West Virginia, they have the Mountain Party. I mean, there are various third party alternatives in West Virginia, but the Mountain Party is a pretty well-known third party alternative in West Virginia. And Charlotte Pruitt is the candidate, and she actually beats Joe Manchin previously when she in a race for the Democratic nominee. So she has previously been a Democratic nominee for governor, and Joe Manchin was so upset that he lost that he threw his support by the Republican. So this is the type of people that we're talking about here, who are out there, making decisions and engaging the world. I mean, when people show you who they are, you need to pay attention to them. And they're slandering her. They're trying to say she's worked for Republicans. So it's a similar thing to what's being done to Jill Stein in some ways. The Mountain Party is a Green Party affiliate. So there isn't a Green Party in West Virginia. There's the Mountain Party. So that was just paying attention to kind of more so what's going on the political spectrum outside the presidential election, I think is really important. Okay, so I was talking earlier when you guys could not hear me, and I was talking about what happened in Charlotte just a few hours ago. There was a Black man murdered on the sidewalk while waiting for a school bus to pick up a child after school. Facebook Live video from a woman saying that she was his daughter. We don't have any specific names for anyone involved, so I cannot confirm specifically. And I've been here with you all, so I haven't been glued to Twitter to find out what's going on. But the allegation is that they claim that he got out of the car with a gun and they shot because they feared for their lives. What's even worse is that they were trying to serve a warrant on someone in the complex that was not this man that they decided to accost. And from people from the family members, the family is saying that he was sitting in a car with a book, that he was disabled, and he did not own a gun. So we will see how this unfolds. It just seems like we cannot catch a break, that when there is one, there's another coming right after it down the pipeline, and something has to give. And this is not the time for, oh, we need to be calm, or oh, this or that. There's no diplomacy when matters of injustice are it's just I mean, there are no words. And to be able to hold it together with you right now and not fall apart, I'm gonna leave it at that. And I'm sure Ben will put his own spin on it. But closing out here, again, like I said, appreciate you guys a lot for hanging in there. Apparently Chris Christie knew about the bridge lane closings. You know, Chris Christie had the bridge gate. Prosecutors are saying that he actually knew as they were happening that it was happening. He is alleged otherwise. It's just, you know, ish. And this was actually an interesting share. So someone sent me a video earlier of, I think it was back in like 98, 99, Jesse Jackson praising Donald Trump for helping to with hiring and helping with exposure of Black people in, you know, corporate America. You know, someone pointed out, well, you know, Jesse Jackson just slammed him at the Congressional Black Caucus, you know, event recently. We should really be paying attention to and be wary of the Black Miss Leadership class, because the same people they have praised and loved and hung out with and been friends with and taken money from, same with, you know, Democrats, you know, like Clinton's, now all of a sudden they're enemy number one. It definitely bodes that there's more to what's going on right now in the presidential election cycle than just, you know, he bad, she good. You know, Hillary Clinton tweeted out a couple of hours ago that it should be intolerable that shootings happen. Not to mention the fact that these shootings are actually, people are dying, people are being killed, police are standing around like, someone shot and dead. I mean, it's despicable that people are not providing assistance. You just sit there and just let somebody bleed out on a cold pavement while you maybe wait for an ambulance to come. I mean, there should be a requirement that you administer aid and provide assistance. Like, it just should not be accepted that people are allowed to die on the side of a road or en route to a hospital. It should not be acceptable that people's families are denied access to see them while in such hospital. Like, it's beyond egregious. It's beyond intolerable. It's beyond, it should be intolerable. It is intolerable. And while I'm on the subject of Hillary Clinton, since I only have a few minutes before Ben comes on, Hillary, you know, was on Steve Harvey this morning talking about how she's talking to the white people about race. I don't know how the hell you talking to white people about race if you on Steve Harvey. Like, you go on Black radio to prove to Black people that you about their issues. That's the ploy. That's what people do. However, if you really about that life, you really going to talk to white people about race, Hillary, then you need to be on Ellen. You need to make sure that you're in venues and you're talking about issues when the Black vote is not on the line. Like, that is the real testament of leadership right now. And not because some consultant someplace said that this is what you need to do and how you need to do it. This is, you know, what's going on. Just had a comment in the room, damn, that's why I use a Kindle. I mean, a Kindle probably look more like a gun than a book does. I don't know. But yeah, I got thrown off because of the technology issues. Again, if you have $1.05, please consider donating to The Way, patreon.com/The Way with Anoa. Really trying to bring up the quality of the show to make sure that I'm matching what Ben is providing you on a weekly basis, and would like to be able to build out a little bit more. Join me for a new special segment. I'm going to try this on Thursday, so hopefully the tech will work properly, for tea time with Nono. I'm going to sip a little tea and we're going to talk a little bit about some truth. So that's The Way with Noah for this evening. Thank you so much. I just, again, had Milton Davis. Check out Working Washington on Twitter. And that's the show. Talk to you guys later. Peace.